When did you decide to make their system work against them? When they denied my wife's chemo, saying it was experimental, while approving the exact same treatment for others. My wife got diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in February, and the cancer doctor gave us the treatment plan that same day. Standard FDA-approved treatment that everyone gets with nothing experimental about it. We sent everything to insurance feeling good, but the denial came back in 2 days, claiming the treatment was investigational. I called right away and could hear the woman typing while I talked, not even listening. She kept saying their medical team decided it was experimental, even though my wife's doctor literally wrote that this was standard care. When I asked if anyone even looked at the medical records, she just repeated that their review team makes determinations based on coverage guidelines. I filed an appeal and attached 15 medical studies showing this was standard treatment, but the second denial popped up in my email 20 minutes after I hit submit. My wife saw the timestamp and started crying. They don't care if I die, do they? I couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. That night, I found an online support group where 3 people with our exact diagnosis got instant approvals, and one woman messaged me saying her treatment got approved in 2 days with the same medicine at the same dose, but different insurance. That's when everything clicked. I spent the weekend digging through state insurance law and discovered they had to respond to every appeal within 72 hours and pay $600 for each external medical review we requested. So Monday morning, I put their system to the test. I called to file an appeal for the denial of Abraxane and heard the representative sigh before he even spoke. He kept insisting I'd already filed appeals for that medication, but I explained this was for the 500 milligram dose, specifically since the others were for treatment in general. I pulled up their denial letter and read it back to him, explaining how they evaluate each aspect separately, so I'm also filing appeals for the 100 milligrams dose and for weekly versus bi-weekly scheduling. When he said that would be 3 separate appeals, I told him it was actually more because I needed to appeal each of the 12 infusions separately, plus each anti-nausea medication. You can't be serious about filing all these appeals. Watch me, I said. By Wednesday, I'd filed 47 appeals with my kitchen table covered in color-coded folders, and Thursday, I started requesting external reviews for every denial, while the representative's voice got more strained with each call. They kept reminding me their company would have to pay for each review, but I just said I knew since it was right there in the state law. Friday, I demanded in-person hearings which they had to provide within 30 days, and by week 2, the same exhausted guy started answering before I even finished dialing. Every morning, he'd groan about my 17 new appeals and begged to know what I wanted while I kept saying the same thing. Approve my wife's treatment or follow every single rule in your policy. He'd complain about the thousands in review fees, and I'd remind him they were costing my wife her life. By week 3, I'd filed 186 appeals while keeping detailed spreadsheets of every interaction, requested 73 external reviews that drained their budget, and scheduled 14 hearings that required them to send representatives to my city. Week 4, my phone rang from a blocked number, and I knew something had shifted. Patricia, vice president of claims, introduced herself and said she'd heard I'd been busy. I told her I was just following their procedures while my wife waited for treatment. She mentioned they'd assigned 3 full-time staff members just for my appeals, and the external reviews alone had cost $30,000, but I just suggested maybe they should stop denying legitimate treatment. She went quiet, and I could hear papers shuffling before she finally asked what exactly I wanted. I want every single thing my wife's doctor prescribed approved immediately. Every scan, every medication, everything. When she asked what would happen if they didn't, I explained I'd post my spreadsheet and templates online to 8,000 cancer patients who were begging for help, and I'd already bought the domain name. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Patricia. I've got nothing to lose and a dying wife. 2 hours later, she called back with a different tone saying everything was approved, backdated to my original submission, and they'd approve any future treatment her doctor recommends. I told her I wanted that in writing within the hour, and she agreed, then tried to say this conversation never happened. Whatever helps you sleep at night, Patricia. The approval letter arrived in 45 minutes with 16 pages of treatments, and my wife started chemo the next morning, tears streaming when they hooked up the IV. They assigned a case manager who called nervously. Mr. Thompson, I'll handle everything personally. Good. I still have that website ready. 3 months later, her scans came back clean after the treatment they'd called experimental worked. I posted my templates online and watched 8,000 downloads pile up, while the insurance company messaged they'd hired 12 people for appeals, and their denial rate dropped 40%, calling me a menace, which was the best compliment. My wife's been cancer-free a year now because sometimes you have to make denying claims cost more than paying them.